Hello, everyone. Thank you from wherever you're calling in from for joining us today. We have a chat, so feel free to put in your name and where you're from in the chat, and we would love to welcome you to our webinar. And we will get started in just a moment.
Say, Lennox, I thought I'd mention, we're here to talk about content marketing, but it's obviously worth recognizing the fact that there are major world events happening right now that are of huge concern to many people, possibly even affecting people, if not people within our community. This is a global community, but people that we know. So I think it's a good time just to just say briefly that let's support each other and help each other, reach out to anyone that you know to be affected, be kind to each other, be good, and let's just all hope that things get better soon. But we're here to do our jobs, and I'm glad we didn't cancel. We are a passionate community of content marketers who love what we do. So without saying more about it, except peace on earth, let's have a great conversation today about content marketing and the trends that you discovered through this research.
Thank you very much, Andy. With that said, welcome everyone. And my name is Lennox Powell. I'm the content director here at SEMrush. And I've really been looking forward to this webinar because not only is content my absolute favorite marketing subject to discuss, also because of these incredible guests that we have with us today. This webinar will really be a discussion about some notable content marketing trends to keep in mind this year, many of which were gleaned from our 2022 State of Content Marketing report that was recently published. So our knowledgeable content marketing aficionados here with us today will be speaking to some of the key findings from that report. Without further ado, let's get into our introductions. Andy, I will actually pitch it back over to you to introduce yourself and who you are and where you're calling in from.
Sure. I'm the co-founder of Orbit Media Studios, which is a web design company that I started with a friend 21 years ago. I've been a content marketer for I've been an SEO for that whole time and an analytics person for that whole time. But I've been very, very active in content marketing, email, social, influencer collaboration for the last 15 years. And I'm honored to be here.
Well, we are honored to have you. And so thank you for joining us. How about you, Catherine?
Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Strachan. I'm the managing director and owner of Copyhouse. Copyhouse is a content marketing agency specializing in technology and fintech. So we work a lot in the B2B space, and we essentially support content throughout its life cycle. Everything from core messaging workshops where we build customer avatars, a topic that I'm very passionate about, to content production. Content production for us includes copywriting as well as content design. So we do a lot of that leadership, case studies, blogs, ebooks, white papers, that sort of thing, to content dissemination. So helping the content get live via social media and email, and then wrapping up with an impact report. So yes, I'm here today to talk about content marketing. It's obviously a subject that's very close to my heart, seeing how I built a whole company around it. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Lennox.
Lovely. So happy you could join us. Margarita, please introduce yourself as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Margarita. I work here at SEMrush as a content lead. So me and my team were actually behind this State of Content Marketing report, which is like the key topic today. And we spent honestly months, so a lot of work on it. So I'm happy it's over and I'm happy we can finally share the insights. And yeah, and in terms of my background, so I've been in B2B tech content marketing for the past few years, traveled a lot. I lived in Spain, lived in New York. And I don't know, I would maybe mention this, our favorite story with Andy, because Andy, once upon a time back in Barcelona, was one of my tutors and at my MBA program. So yeah, so we're all here very, very passionate about content, and hopefully we can share something useful today with the audience.
Yeah, I love how it's come full circle. It's great. Before we dive in, first, thank you all very much for being with us here today and sharing your insights. Some quick housekeeping. The recording of this webinar will be available using the same link that you used to join the webinar. However, the team will also send out an email with a link to the webinar recording, so you'll have access to it in multiple ways. A quick agenda for this webinar. So we'll start off with a bit of background by Margarita on the 2022 State of Content Global Content Marketing Report. It's a mouthful. Then we'll discuss some findings, learnings, trends from the report. And finally, we'll really focus on trend-related questions submitted by many of you when you registered for the webinar. Many fascinating ones in there we're excited to dive into, and then we'll answer questions that you add to the chat. So please use the chat, ask questions, and we will do our best to get to them. So with that, Margarita, the spotlight is on you.
Yeah, so let me, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, oh, yes, here, perfect. So yeah, let me just quickly introduce the report, and I'll just tell you a few interesting findings from the report, and then we can proceed to the discussion. So the State of Content Marketing 2022 Global Report, as I said, we really did put a lot of work into it, a lot of research, a lot of effort. So just in a few numbers of what we did, what we analyzed over 500,000 blog posts, inspected over 200,000 tweets, surveyed over 1,500 marketeers. And we also analyzed over another 500,000 content topics and 8,000 niche articles, all to come up with this really 360-degree report, which will hopefully help you kind of learn everything that you need to know about content marketing in 2022 so you can really succeed. And next, I'll just share a few interesting insights. So perhaps we could also discuss them during the event. So 91% of our survey respondents claimed that they had at least some degree of success with their content marketing efforts. And with that, 97% of everyone we surveyed was already doing some kind of content. So I feel like it really shows us that the future is bright for content. So it's getting better every year. And so we did a little analysis to find out, so what were some of the traits of the companies that were especially successful? So this cluster of people that said that they were highly successful in content in 2021. So 78% of them had a documented content marketing strategy. 48% of them also increased their paid content promotion budget in 2021. 60% had have a content team of over 4 people. 65% run content audits more than twice a year, and then 78% spend over 10% of their marketing budget on content. So I feel like what it does tell is that if you strategize content and if you really put time and effort into it, it's definitely going to pay off. And a few other interesting stats. So 71% of our survey respondents plan to increase their content marketing budget in 2022. And 58 of them will also grow their content marketing teams this year, which is, again, I think, a very good sign for everyone in the industry. And then finally, so the top 3 content marketing investment areas for 2022 are social media and community building. And I think it was especially true for B2C. Better quality of the written content and content promotion and distribution. And the top 3 content marketing success factors in 2021 were: 1, improving the quality of content, which I couldn't agree more. And then search engine optimization and creating more video and visual content. So what can I say then? I really hope that everyone will download the report after the webinar. So what you will find there is a very, very detailed overview of all the different trends you need to know about in 2022. It's basically it's a result of our conversations with industry experts, of our service, of your peers, and also a lot of proprietary research with SEMrush data. So you will learn how to create a better content strategy and the workflow, how to grow better with content, and also get practical tips on how to create high-performing content, and optimize it for users and SEO. Yeah, thank you.
Unmute myself there. The awkward mute button. Margarita, thank you for that overview. That was incredible. A significant amount of work, and the perspectives that were included are nothing short of impressive. So thank you for providing that overview. There's a lot to unpack in this report. So I'd like to kick things off with a topic I know my team and I discuss quite often, which is content quality. It's a concept that's rather subjective. If you ask 5 people what content quality is, you're probably going to get 5 different answers. So I am thrilled to be asking the question to the pros. I will actually pitch it over to Catherine. You and I have had many a discussion about this as well. Let's start with you. For content quality, what is your perspective on it? How do you define it?
I think we might have some connectivity issues here.
Okay, we're just going to switch right over to Andy. Andy,
No
content quality, your perspective on it. How do you define it?
It is our mutual obsession, and it is the most important thing. So it's important. I love that we started with this. You're right. It's subjective, and the ultimate arbiter of the quality of our content is the audience that consumes it. Yeah. So, is it memorable? Does it start a conversation? Is it something that that is going to build trust and awareness? Those are all important, but not really measurable as key performance indicators, and not useful to a search engine as ranking factors, because those all happen inside people's brains. So what does the search engine see as content quality as a key consideration? Obviously, a lot of us are paying close attention to user interaction signals, such as time on page from search, often called dwell time. So does the visitor who clicks from a search result stay on the page for a long time or a short time? I think one of the really interesting findings from the report is the correlation between number of images and organic search performance. So if you want your visitors to land on the page and stay on the page, which the search engine is paying attention to and can use as a proxy for quality, then dwell time, you want to increase dwell time, then you need to make your content very scannable, highly formatted, lots of headers, subheaders, and images. These days, I'm working hard to make sure that there's something of visual interest at every scroll depth. No matter how far down you go in this article, you're going to see some kind of interesting, helpful, useful visual, a video, or usually a diagram. So nobody really believes that the number of images is a search ranking factor, but look at the correlation. The articles that have 7+ images have a lot more organic traffic. They get more shares. They attract more links. So I think that one of the ways that you can differentiate content, make your content more visual, and also it's called the pictorial superiority effect, make your content more memorable, is just by making it more visual. I think that's an excellent proxy for quality. Of course, there's original research. There's how collaborative is. There are multiple points of view. But a simple way to start is just making your stuff by adding more pictures.
I love that. Catherine, you're back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I'm having some internet problems today, but hopefully it doesn't interrupt our conversation too much. So quality content for me is all about delivering really unique insights. There's nothing worse than a regurgitated blog that is exactly like all the other blogs on the internet. So, that starts with understanding your audience. What is it that they want and need from you? And how can you deliver insights that are really high quality, that really help solve a problem, that really connect with your audience? And then creating content that is unique. So one of the ways we do that is by doing expert interviews. So can you interview somebody within the company and get their insights and share their insights that have never been seen before, insights that are unique, that deliver meaningful value and can really make an impact. So of course, there's lots of tips and tricks for creating a high quality article, but I think it really comes from creating something meaningful that has an impact on the world and occupies a space that, perhaps wasn't occupied before.
Margarita, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, exactly. I do agree. I feel like at this point, the only way, we can break through the noise and in search, but anywhere else, is to really approach every piece of content, as a piece of research.
Mhm.
So, and there are different ways to do that, right? You can actually do a research. You can actually, you can work with the content design, making sure like improving the reader experience, for example. But I feel like this uniqueness, be that, a new opinion or challenging the existing opinion or a new way to solve the problem, new research, new data. So, I mean, in B2B especially, but anywhere else, I feel like this is really the only way to rank and to differentiate going forward. And I would say, for someone like me, who actually creates content about content, it kind of becomes easier, right? Because you actually, you can go out there, you can do the research, you can test things. But I also know that for many content marketers, it can be challenged because, I did work in finance, I worked in legal tech, and there is no way you can really become a true expert in quantitative finance, for example. So I feel like, I mean, my advice here would be not only try to leverage, and build those relationships with the internal SMEs, have like very tight and strong relationships with product managers, with salespeople, etc. But also make sure you go out there and work with industry experts. So, be that the actual thought leaders or just people who work in the industry. Yeah, what I do sometimes, I would go to the Content Marketing Institute's group on LinkedIn and post a question, and I would just collect the answers. And it just adds this uniqueness because asking those people who might have interesting experiences or, unique opinions that are different from yours or even from your SMEs can actually help you differentiate, because there's just so much content out there, I guess, that's the biggest challenge right now.
I'll add to that. The world is not waiting for another medium quality blog post. You can skip it. No one will care. But what you said, and I love that, just to add to that, original research, it's so different. It's so differentiated. Just ask yourself, is there anything for which your website is the primary source? It makes your website the primary source. You're automatically like in a different category. I mentioned visuals. It's a great opportunity to do visuals. Those charts, it's like catnip on social media. They love it. It's going to work because it makes people feel smart to share a statistic. We should use this, it's kind of meta, but this report is obviously an amazing example of high quality content. Why? It's original, it's highly visual, it's highly collaborative, it can be repurposed. So I agree 100%. Original research is an almost automatic win, especially if it aligns with, to Catherine's point, something that is meaningful and helpful to your audience.
Yeah, one of the really great things as well about the B2B world is by doing this research, you can pull in people who may not have been involved in marketing. So get the subject matter experts. Most tech companies that we work with, almost all tech companies, have really brilliant people who work there, but nobody ever gets to see them because they're hidden behind the screen. They're so busy building the product or the solution that nobody ever sees them, but they're incredibly brilliant. And they don't have time to write a blog article. They don't have time to write a white paper, but they do have time to take 20, 30 minutes to talk about something that they're really passionate about. So doing these interviews that I was mentioning earlier is a really great way to get their insights and to deliver their insights to the world, to showcase the capabilities within your company and to create something that is very unique. I mean, how often do you get to hear from these people who are behind the scenes? And they are incredibly bright and have so much really great insights that, it's a shame that they're hidden away behind the product or the solution.
According to the respondents for this report, content quality was deemed the #1 success factor for content marketing in 2021. And we included some actual, in addition to what you're hearing, there's some specific writing elements that you can also consider to improve your content quality, including visuals. So yes, love that we were able to dive into this a little bit because it is such an important factor, but means many different things and can look different in many different ways and contexts. So love this discussion. If we could just have one webinar just on content quality, I have no doubt we would fill the time. But I think we actually have a few, so we might be able to weave that in to also share to even take a deeper dive. But now we're going to put our SEO glasses on. There's often a lot of pressure on both SEOs and content marketers to rank high on a search engine results page. If you're in content, I'm sure you're talking back to the screen saying, don't I know it, Lennox? But in other words, the ranking tends to be the focus. Andy, a trend that you mentioned in the report that I was pretty giddy about myself is that mindset is shifting to click-through rates in search. Talk more about that. I would love to hear more perspective on that.
It's every year people ask us all for the top trends in SEO and the top trends in content marketing. And I frequently hear at conferences and in conversations just that the search engines change so often. It changes 200 times a year, 50 times a day, or whatever. In my experience, ranking factors don't change very often. And I have many phrases for which I rank very high and have for years, like 5 years or longer. What does change every day is what appears in search results. SERP features, the proliferation of SERP features. Speaking of visuals, yeah, Google knows that, and they made SERP features, search and results pages more visual than ever. They're packed with visuals. And so the big change in SEO is changes in click-through rate. I was looking at a phrase for which I ranked number 1 or 2 for many years. 1 year ago, it had a click-through rate of 8%, 7 to 8%. Today, it has a click-through rate of 3 to 4%. The ranking didn't change. So more and more rankings feel like a vanity metric. People focus on them. It's more, kind of the more junior SEOs do that, or uninformed executives talk about their rankings for like one specific key phrase. That's not really the game unless you know that you're ranking for a high click-through rate phrase. A lot of phrases you can rank for have 0 clicks. They will never again ever have a click because Google has satisfied the information need right there in the search results page, in the knowledge panel or the featured snippet or the people also ask box or some fancy new widget they're inventing right now. So I think the key is to avoid like fact intent searches for which the answer is very short, and to focus on key phrases for which the answer is pretty long. That, something like this is also in the report, guide. Guide is dominant. It's super powerful, right? Those are some of the best performing articles, guides. Why? Because they're deep content. It's the important topic. It's not a quick, short answer. So you can have the same rankings, a year from now as you do today, but you'll have much less traffic because click-through rates will continue to decline. The only safety is in producing content that goes deeper into topics that require more information, and that's it's not going to be the little fact intent searches.
Catherine, Margarita, I see you both nodding your head vigorously. Would love to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree because click-through rates are how you get people onto your page, and content for me is about having conversations. So it's how you have a conversation at scale. So you can't even start that conversation until they come onto your page. So search volumes is a really great way to see where the interest lies, especially with long tail. I mean, how many people are asking that question? Is there interest there to warrant an article? But what you really need is for them to come onto your page so that you can start that conversation. So you can start to build that relationship, and so that you can capture their attention and you can begin to devote and develop and nurture a relationship with that audience. If they don't click through, then it's pointless and irrelevant, like you said, Annie.
Yeah, definitely. And, to what Andy mentioned about the guys. So from the report's statistics, I think so. The guide articles, that actually had the guide word in the headline, they generated 3 times more organic traffic than others, and the how-to ones, they generated 1.5% times more organic traffic. And I would also actually add here, I mean, this is not exactly about, the deepness of content, but this is something that I have been thinking a lot about lately, that sometimes what we do, we would go to the software, find a keyword, see the search volume, and assume that, this would be the search volume. And I feel like you just like make sure you don't fall into this trap, because one, again, you always remember that there's this CTR, which is really low. But also I feel like there is also a good side of it, that in reality, if you end up ranking for one good keyword, then you can also rank for many related keywords. So for example, sometimes, if you, let's say, if you find a keyword and you go and you basically type it in Google, and see the like the first few pages that rank. So you might find that some of them would rank for additional keywords, and that the actual volume would be much higher. So I feel like I would also take this into consideration than actually deciding on which keywords it's better to rank for.
I love that you said that, Margarita. That's so important. And I'm almost at the point where I don't really target key phrases anymore. Sure, the article will have maybe like a primary key phrase or something main that appears in the title and header, but target the topic. Target the topic, not just the key phrase. Any page that ranks, just drop it into SEMrush. Any page that ranks for a phrase also ranks for like 200, 300, 400 other phrases frequently. Not weird. So search volume statistics are drastically underreporting the traffic potential. And the smart SEO, getting back to content quality, spreads out their meaning across all the related subtopics, all the related questions. They go deeper into that. Word count is not a search ranking factor. I don't think anyone really believes that it is. But why do longer articles tend to rank? Because they touch on all the related things. It's called semantic SEO. So I'm a huge fan of that. Thank you for mentioning that. It's not really about the specific phrase anymore. We should be spreading out our meaning and making deep content that touches on all the related subtopics. And when you rank, you're going to rank for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, we often use SEO and like search volumes and keywords as idea generators for creating a whole content campaign. So one of the approaches we often use is called the content pillar approach, where we create one long form article, say it's 2,000 words. So going off your point, Andy, one long form content piece that is a guide that is targeted at one of those big, more general keywords. And then we support it with mid-funnel content, which is often those thought leadership pieces that include expert interviews. And then it ends with a bottom of funnel downloadable, like a template or a checklist or something like this. And that's a really great way to build a campaign around a topic or around a keyword that you particularly want to rank for.
This is such a beautiful segue into my next question, which is the funnel. And let's move a little bit further down the funnel. Another growing trend mentioned in the report is content's relationship to sales and revenue generation. Catherine and Andy, you both touch on that. You both give a lot of really good insights in the report related to this. But for the individuals on our webinar, what guidance can you give content marketers? SEOs are also included. Demand gen people are also included into this. Like, there's a whole chain of events. But what guidance can you give for how to effectively align content with marketing and business goals? Be that generating high value leads, a sale.
Catherine, you already started this. Why not jump in? Yeah, this is your jam.
Sure. I mean, how you begin is by thinking about the whole entire journey. So where are people when they first come to you? What are they thinking about? So that's going to be your top of funnel stuff, those more general questions, things at the very top of the funnel. And then the mid funnel, you're thinking a bit more about how you can connect the business to this term or this idea, this concept. And then bottom of funnel is obviously something that is a bit more closer to the sale. So what you want to do is to map it all out. So when you're doing your content strategy, and content strategies are very important, you need to be getting insights from the business. Your account managers, your customer service people are going to understand what that process is like. What are some of the common questions that they're hearing? What information are people asking for once they hear about the product? What does that landscape look like? And once you understand that landscape, it's much easier to build out a funnel. So when we do our content strategies, we identify the pieces that are going to be top of funnel and the pieces that are going to be middle and the pieces that are going to be bottom. Bottom quite often is a downloadable something so that you can get that lead and pass it on to your sales team, but mapping it out and thinking about it at each stage of the journey and really putting yourself in your customer's shoes is probably the best way to start.
I love that. I think if you did an audit of a typical content marketing program, you'd find that there's a big gap in bottom of funnel content. You also see that reflected in the report a little bit. The top goals were, I think, like brand awareness and traffic. Yeah, key marketing goals, 45% brand awareness, 37% attract more traffic. But the best content, we said content quality earlier, we're talking about content quality. You've got a really good piece if you keep talking about it during sales meetings, if you share it on sales calls, if you send it to people as a follow-up, if your prospects talk about it. So it is sometimes called zero waste marketing. You don't care about page views. The metrics don't matter because you made it for the most important audience, your current prospect. Sales enablement content or account-based marketing content, things that are designed to create demand by addressing objections. Or I think the best marketers read sales books. If you've read the book, The Challenger Sale, it reminds us that one thing that correlates with sales closing rates is when you answer the unasked question, right? This is never going to appear in keyword research because people aren't even talking about it. But you know that when you bring it up with a prospect, you expand their thinking and you demonstrate expertise because you clearly have been around the block if you're bringing this issue up. So I love that. I think it's a huge gap. Who cares? There's more to life than search. And if you make a piece of content that literally works like a sales script that you are talking about with prospects, that is high value stuff. It doesn't, it is, it actually more directly supports revenue than anything that you write that ranks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. And far too often do we see a disconnect between marketing and sales.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea of you go to an in-person conference, hopefully they're back this year. And after that conference, you can reach out to people with a piece of content. So, hey, really great to meet you. Right. I wanted to share this report that I was talking about at the conference. That's a great way to build that relationship without going straight for the hard sell. I think people quite often forget about how content can actually help sales. And, you need to get your sales team on board and they need to understand how they can use content to their advantage as a tool and not just in the pitch deck, but in, ways to expand your audience's mind, ways to poke the bear and, get them to realize that they have a problem that they have to fix and that you're the only solution for it. I mean, content plays such an important role in that, but far too often it's forgotten about.
Yeah, and in B2B, we're selling to groups that have more than one decision maker. They're not all on the call. So content is a vehicle, a more perfect vehicle for transmitting your expertise through an organization. Because if anyone wasn't there for the call, and you share the article that explains this complex concept, includes original research, it's highly visual, they can share it with other decision makers on their team. You can't really trust the person you talk to be good at conveying these concepts to all the other decision makers. So it's underrated. I love that we're talking about it, and it's kind of a blind spot for a lot of marketers, unfortunately. I don't know. It's hard to explain. What is the obsession with top of funnel? Can someone explain that to me? It's really not where the money is made. I love brand awareness. Maybe for B2C brands. To me, it's strange.
I think it's probably easiest. I think people stick to top of funnel because it's easiest, because you can see what your competitors are doing. Your mid of funnel and your bottom of funnel are going to be way different than your competitors because they have to be more unique about the brand. And I think especially in the B2B world, a lot of brands are very closed. Traditionally copywriting is dry and boring and dull and jargon heavy, and that's because they're scared to inject emotion into it. So I think it's easiest, right? You don't have to be personal. You don't have to understand your brand and what people want to talk about. You don't really have to understand your audience. I think it's the easy way out. And I think most people don't know how to do mid or bottom funnel, and they're kind of scared to because they have to get more personal. They have to open up more about their brand. They have to understand their customers. It's far more complicated to do mid and bottom funnel than it is top of funnel. So I think, in my opinion, Andy, it's because they're scared and it's easy and it's the easy solution. And people most of the time go with the easy answer.
It's hard to break down silos. If you've got silos, you'll never produce good bottom of funnel content. And also, I have a theory that people are more likely to pay attention to be affected by the highly visible metrics. Top of funnel metrics are everywhere. It's like the size of a social following or social engagement, or rankings are a top of funnel metric, or traffic is like jumps right out at you as soon as you log into analytics. bottom of funnel metrics like sales closing rate, very different. Much you've got to have like faithful use of a CRM and your whole team to really know. So I think that it's the availability heuristic. We are much more likely to pay attention to the things that we can see, and the top of funnel numbers are just everywhere.
Yeah, and like you say, you have to have a good relationship with your sales team to do mid or bottom funnel. And most marketing departments are really quite siloed, especially in these bigger B2B organizations. And one of the things that B2B marketing needs to do is to build that relationship, to get closer to the sales team, to have them work in harmony. But it's a very hard thing to achieve, especially if things have been a certain way for so long. But I think B2B marketing, as we see in this report, is changing, and it needs to. So I'm so happy to like be having this conversation and see some of these things coming out of the works and in the report, and changing how B2B marketing is done.
Yeah, I feel like I had a very unique experience here in my previous company when I was working in finance. So, and it's it's a very big organization, like over 10,000 employees. And there were obviously many issues with marketing. But the good side is basically, honestly, most of this content was focused on demand gen. So, like blog was to kind of, okay, we're going to post on the blog, but no one even like cared that much about SEO, to be honest. But, also like big companies can afford it. But what the interesting piece was that I did have the regular conversations with CSM, with sales, with account managers. And basically, I would say, again, because I am not a finance expert, and it's so hard to understand, what exactly do you need to talk about. So at least half of the ideas was really coming from customer success managers, for example. So, and they were, like, as soon as we established this regular process, so we basically just hop on a call and we discuss ideas, and it's amazing. Like people who are not content marketeers, who are not marketers at all, say, oh, we need to make a webinar on this topic. Oh, we need to make a paper on this topic, and you just write it down and you create it. So it's true. It's that basically, everyone in the company is a content marketeer, right? So you just exactly. So this silo, you need to make sure there are processes, and I feel like sometimes, and again, in another company I worked in, there was like a complete silo, and sometimes, yes, the issue is that people, they just don't understand the benefit. But for like, if the salesperson gets leads because of the content we created, then everyone wins. So I think it's just important to explain why they should care and establish some of those processes.
Yeah, I think to break down the silo, the marketer needs to sneak into the office of the salespeople, grab their laptops, and look at the sent mail folder and just go through and see all the questions they're answering all the time. It's like a salesperson doesn't have that circuit in their brain like we do, right? To automatically think, oh, that should be an article. They'll send the same email dozens of times without thinking, oh, wow, it'd be really nice if I had like a nice visually formatted, publicly available version of this that I could share with my prospects. They'll just keep writing the same emails over and over. So probably some of your best bottom of funnel content is actually going to grow from seeds you find in the outbox, the sent mail folder of your top reps.
100%. Yep. Thank you all. That was kind of our core. There's so much in the report. So we kind of focused on some big topics that we know we could also deep dive into. But many of you, quite a few of you actually, provided trends or questions that you thought would be really insightful to have us talk about on the webinar today. So we broke a few of them down. We're going to dive right in. Thank you all for contributing those trend thoughts and ideas. But content created by artificial intelligence, the trend, I'm hearing a lot about it for sure. But Catherine, Andy, Margarita, thoughts on this trend, upsides, downsides of AI creating content?
Well, I'm unmuted, so I'll go first. I love Henneke Doistermat from Enchanting Marketing. She's a contributor to the report, and she cites it as evidence that more human, more personal, more differentiated content will have the advantage because AI-driven content will increase the volume of medium quality and low quality stuff. I think that it's probably an excellent approach to creating short form, back intent, quick answers by scraping the web to find general consensus on certain things. But it's probably an opportunity for people that don't use it to stand out by making something that's funnier or weirder or more memorable, or that starts a conversation or more collaborative or just different. I have a friend who said that we're in an era now which is post single point of view era for content marketing, as in any content that you produce that's just your own perspective is likely to have a disadvantage. So the exception to that is going to be for sure just thought leadership, like really strong, taking a stand. Take a stand. What do you stand for? What do you stand against? Plant a flag, draw a line in the sand. I believe in this. I don't believe in that. A robot will never do that. AI doesn't have beliefs. So if you want to publish strong opinion, especially counter-narrative opinion, it's going to seem even more different than ever when there's a flood of AI-driven content.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think AI is going to help us as marketers. It's going to take some of those more basic tasks. I remember very early on in my career when I would spend hours and hours and hours writing meta descriptions and page titles. I think, junior marketers probably won't have to do that in the future. And that, yeah, like Andy said as well, it's going to drive more value towards thought leadership. Those interviews I was talking about earlier, the ability to dig into a conversation, to really find the gems and then create an article is not going to be something that I think an AI can do. It's never going to have a human touch. It is going to perhaps be able to do a sports coverage. It might be able to report on the game, but it's not going to be able to capture somebody's ideas and thoughts and really develop a very high quality article. The reports show the importance of content quality. So, I would be cautious towards AI. There are some use cases for it. There are some good ways that you can use it, but I don't think it's ever going to replace writers completely. There's never going to be a day where we don't need a human writer. But human writers will move more towards a higher value thinking, the more complicated stuff, the deeper strategy, that sort of thing, and away from perhaps some of the more basic things that junior marketers get lumped with these days.
Yep, love that. There is, just in the sake of time, I'm just going to hop to the next one. TikTok and short form videos. How do you see this trend being leveraged for B2B content?
So I was actually thinking a lot about this question, and I feel like I had a lot of prejudice in terms of TikTok it's for Gen Z, and but I actually I looked at the data and Statista, for example. So in terms of the age group, over 40% on people on TikTok in the US are from 20 to 39, which is, the age of the managers and like young specialists that are growing. So I feel like it might be going in the same direction as Instagram was going, at some point. Just like moving from being just for humor and dances to something, that's for everyone, and where at some point everyone will end up. I also know that there was a study, but basically, yes, still people, in, let's say, mostly half of the cases, they use TikTok, for let's say humor. But there were quite a few people who said that they use it for education and for, like related professional activities. So I feel like, although, even to me personally, it still feels weird because I don't use TikTok. I myself, but it does look like even B2B brands might need to start thinking about it. TikTok and short form video, I think in general, it's a great alternative in our ages when we are so overwhelmed by content. Like, we don't really have time to watch long videos. Even going on a webinar is a challenge, right? Because just there's no time. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely something to consider for B2B brands.
I don't agree. I'm sorry. It's just weird to me. And so I'm old, so I'll give the old guy perspective. I turned 50 this year. it just feels, it doesn't feel strategic. Even the question does not feel strategic, because strategy, in my simple perspective, is a plan to reach a goal. So start with the goal. If you ask, like, what is our plan for X? You're not really starting with the goal. So if you start with the goal and you say, to Catherine's point, like, I know my audience, I know where they hang out, I know who they listen to, I know what they care about, I know what their concerns are, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. Where do I end up at TikTok? Is that where I need to be to satisfy this person's information needs, or to be, in consideration? So maybe yes, for B2C brands, for e-commerce discovery, for weird products. Some stuff, by the way, no one is searching for because it's brand new. It was just invented, or it's not, there's no term for it. It's not keyword aligned at all. In that case, social is great. Social media makes more sense. Other things will never work on social media, but work great in search. So the search versus social distinction is something I've always obsessed over. But yeah, TikTok, I can't imagine most of my B2B clients concluding that that is an important part of their strategy if they start with the goal and the audience. On the other hand, short form video, I love. If you're serious about promoting a piece of content, make a 1-minute commercial for it. Just turn on your camera and pitch your content, like a video call to action. Put that on social media. I made one for this event. Took me 15 minutes. The engagement was huge. I frequently get 100+ clicks from a social media post because it's a video post. So I love short form video. I think it's a fantastic form of content promotion. But starting with a platform, any platform, to me just risks being shiny object syndrome and not being a good example of strategic thinking.
So I want to make sure we also get to audience questions. I have one more I'm going to sneak in here for a trend. Content marketing. Catherine, I'm just going to pitch this right over to you because I know you have thoughts. Content marketing in the metaverse.
Yeah, that's a big trend right now at the moment. The metaverse is blowing up. It's really interesting space to watch. I mean, I think we're a little bit away from mass adoption, and it's really going to require mass adoption for it to be as big as people say it's going to be. But how content will translate is really interesting. Obviously, there's a big emphasis on video and audio content, but how does a written word translate? As somebody who owns a content marketing agency that specializes in copywriting and content design, it's something that I've been thinking and investigating a lot. I think UX content's going to be big. You're going to need signs and directions and all that sort of stuff in the metaverse. I think how we format content's going to change. How the goggles make it so that you can read text much quicker if it's lined up right in front of your face. So the same way that we write for mobile, we may one day write for the metaverse and format our content differently. It's a really interesting space that I've been doing a lot of thinking of. I'm so curious about it. At this point in time, I don't think it's quite there yet, especially for when it comes to the written content. And it's going to be a little while, but it's such an interesting space to watch.
Margarita, Andy, any thoughts?
I gave you my mini rant about shiny objects, so I'll be quiet on this one.
Okay.
Same here.
Fair enough. That was good insights. Possibly a trend that is starting to bubble to the surface this year, and then will have its heyday in, 2030. There are a few really insightful questions here from webinar attendees. Jorge Rojas Vasquez asks, adding videos works better or equal to adding pictures in, say, a blog?
I've made a video and written an article about how to track video views using Google Analytics. Once you've done that, it requires event tracking set up using Google Tag Manager. Once you've done that, you can create a segment to see the difference in engagement between people who do and don't watch a video on any URL. I'm seeing a 300% increase in conversion rates for those that do watch the video. So it's, I think, an excellent example of just a super upgraded video, a visual that will improve dwell time and potentially even conversions. But beyond that, I mentioned the proliferation of features in search results pages. If you're targeting a key phrase and the search results page shows video in there, the game changed. Your best competitor in that competition may not be a piece of written content. So publishing a video gives you 2 bites at the apple. You've got a chance to rank organically and a chance for your video to rank. And finally, if you have an article that already ranks high, and you want an engaged YouTube channel, just make videos specifically for those articles that already rank high. They're going to be super visible. They're going to have lots of views, and it's going to really jumpstart your YouTube channel. So that's what I called in the report an automatically successful YouTube strategy, is to simply make videos and put them at the top of your current high-ranking articles. I'm a big fan of content marketing videos, and those are some ways they can work.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both as well. I mean, Andy's points are spot on, but essentially it gives you two opportunities to engage with your audience. You know, a picture is never going to deliver the way that a video can. Some people prefer video, some people prefer the written word. I mean, you may prefer video depending on the certain situation that you're in. I mean, or you might prefer a blog. If you're on a train, you don't have any headphones, you're probably not going to watch a video. But you will read that article. So serving up the content in two ways gives you two opportunities to interact and engage with your audience. It's really about building that relationship, and the more ways that you can deliver a message, the better, right? So I'm a big fan in them complementing each other and working together. And I always, kind of encourage that sort of perspective.
You all have mentioned scannable content. What does that mean for you visually?
I'll give it to you in a bullet list. Use bullet lists, subheads, bolding, italics, internal links, short paragraphs, and images and visuals, images and video. It's just white space, basically. Leave lots of, avoid big, blocky, dense paragraphs, because your visitor is looking for an answer. They want to find it quickly. And you're simply acknowledging how people consume content and doing them a favor by making your content highly structured, highly formatted.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. Headers are really helpful for scannable content, especially headers that kind of contain or summarize what the paragraphs following is about. So perhaps it's benefits of AI, and then, benefit one and that specific benefit. So one of the things that you see in copywriting is very vague or one word headers. Those aren't very scannable. What you want to do is think about how you can signpost it, because people may not read the full article. They may just skip sections. So they may just want to read one section of your article. So you want to make it easy for them to find that section in case they don't want to read all of it. It's very likely that they'll scan all of it and then go back to the top and read through if they want to read the full thing. And you want to cater to both audiences. You want to cater to the audience that's short on time and is going to go specifically to a certain section and just read that section, as well as the audience who wants to read the full thing. I mean, you get this challenge a lot when it comes to long form content. Will somebody read it? And my answer is always kind of, well, they may not read the full thing, but they may read sections, and the more sections you have, the more you can cater and create relevant content that caters to a wide audience, that delivers what they want, what they're looking for. So if you think about headers as signposts, you're mapping it out. When you create your outline, you should create your headers then. And that way, you're simply filling in the structure of your article when you actually go to write it.
Yep, these are great insights. Margarita, I'm going to pitch the next question to you. What are, especially being so in the weeds with the report, what are some common challenges this year for effective content marketing?
Well,
where do I start?
Well, I mean, honestly, in terms of the challenges, I feel like something that we talked a lot about already today is with SEO. It's just getting harder and harder, right? It's getting harder no matter if your domain authority is high or you're just starting. Just because the click-through rates are getting lower, just because it's I mean, if you are, like, even from my own experience, if you are not in top 3, but even if you can be on page 1, but if you're not in top 3, like the traffic that you're getting might not be enough, although you are really on the first page and your content is good. And sometimes I feel like it's pretty hard to understand why exactly you are, not, for example, not 1 or 2 or 3. And so I feel like this goes back again to, instead of trying to cover each keyword and just create another blog post that may be like slightly better than the other ones, just try to come up with something unique. And I would say, I mean, trying to opt for this quality or original ideas, and trying, and going beyond the SEO only perspective, thinking about how can you, if you have this unique opinion or voice or unique concept that you want to introduce. Like I always think about HubSpot and the inbound marketing. I mean, how did they invent the thing and how did they distribute it? So, go think about different channels, and this is, this is how you might solve this challenge. Thinking about being unique, about sharing ideas, maybe trying to organize content in like thematical campaigns. So in terms of the challenges, I feel like this is the main one. And but it but it's also a challenge, right? How do we sound original? How do we come up with research? So I feel like it's just, it's just a lot of audience research, just a lot of interaction within the company. And this, this commitment to not just be a marketeer, but to be an actual researcher, actual journalist. And I feel like this is the good part about our jobs, right? We get to be all of it at once. Just need to a little effort here, obviously.
Andy, Catherine, anything you'd add to that?
Oh, it touches on all my favorite topics. Collaborative content is differentiated. Journalists don't write articles without using sources. Why do marketers keep writing articles without contributor quotes? I would never miss the chance to include a contributor quote in an article. I just don't publish articles without contributor quotes. It makes my content better. It improves my network. It improves social reach because they're likely to share. So I think that correlates with quality. It also can support the bottom of the funnel. Again, you can include your prospects in your content. You can interview your potential buyers. There's millions of podcasts that interview that are interview shows, and it's no secret that those grow their relationships with potential buyers. So I think that that was a great question and a great answer, Margarita, because it touched on many of the things we've been discussing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as Andy said, collaborative content's a really great way to build a relationship with your prospects without the hard sell. So, I mean, you can ask them questions when you're creating a piece of content that you would not be able to ask them in a sales call or in any other context. People are so keen to collaborate. You give them the opportunity to get to know you. You build off their brand, you get to do shared things together. So it's something that we do a lot at Coffee House. We do a lot of partnerships, we do a lot of collaboration, we do a lot of joint events, pieces, and it's all feeds into building a relationship with our audience, with building a relationship with our prospects. It's such a great way. It's so clever, because nobody's really intimidated by featuring in an ebook the way that they would be on, a sales call. You go into a sales call and you're like, your guard's up because you're being sold to. But if you are interviewed for an ebook, you're far more likely to open, to share your insights, to share your struggles. And then you can, as a brand, you can collect those insights and use them to supercharge your marketing and your sales efforts. It's another really great example of why sales and marketing should work together.
This final question, I'm going to sneak in here. And Andy, if you already have a blog post on this, we could share it. But this one is actually directed to how do you go after those long tail keywords, i.e. better ranking opportunities, if they tend to also be those fact-finding keywords? This is interesting because I find the opposite.
I think the long tail key phrases are less likely to be the key phrases for which there's a short answer. Usually, it's a full, complete question that would require a full, complete answer. Also, the long tail key phrases, you found the correlation. SEMrush has done research and found correlation between content length and keyword length. So these are more likely going to be articles that are longer form, and those will be articles that rank for all kinds of stuff. So yeah, you may rank for the low click-through rate, fact, intent, phrase, what is X. But if the article is also super in-depth and visual and collaborative and touches on all the related subtopics and answers all the related questions, it will likely also rank for tons of other things. So it's a great one to land on here at the end, because we touched on low click-through rates, but also the importance of quality, the value of collaboration and visuals. So yeah, write the big thing, write the best thing, make something that sounds and feels different. It's more personal, it's more human, there's more voices in it. It's got data, new data, it's got visuals and charts. Yes, it might rank for the phrase that has low click-through rate, but if you do it well, it will rank for like 100 other phrases. Some of those will have higher click-through rates. So, bottom line in the end, for bottom, top, middle of the funnel, whatever, make a sincere effort, at least, at creating the best piece of content on the internet for the topic, even if it means publishing far less often, because the things that win so much more love and attention and results that you'd rather have a tiny number of things that get great results than a whole bunch of medium quality stuff that gets nothing.
Love that. Could not agree more. Catherine, Margarita, Andy, thank you very much for taking the time to be on this webinar. For everyone out there attending, thank you for doing so, and we will make sure that we get this recording out to you as soon as possible. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and keep writing great content.
Thanks,
Thank
Simrush.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.